Well, very good evening to everybody around there. It's been fantastic just listening to the wonders of southern Spain with Nicky and Simon. It's just, as they said, it's always interesting. It's always full of surprises. So we're going to go now to the other extreme, to the north, where we're going to start um, our journey this evening, and this is to tell you about wolf, bears, and birds and whales of northern Spain. Particularly, a lot of people tend to forget about Spain as a cold country. You know, you always think about the south, the beaches, and all that, but we tend to forget about the north. And the north is where a lot of the excitement of the Iberian Peninsula actually is located. Now, we've got two massive mountain ranges up here. The Pyrenees are well known and split the Iberian Peninsula with the rest of Western Europe. And that's the natural border in France. And farther west, we have the Cantabrian Mountains. And the Cantabrian Mountains, I mean, both with Pyrenees, same age. They're only split by that little depression over the Basque Country lays down. And but they're both the same age, emerged the same age 65 million years ago. And they're still really forming. And one proof of that is that Picos Europa, which is right attached to the Cantabrian Mountains, doesn't really belong or is part of the Cantabrian Mountains, but is nearly attached to them. And there are exciting areas where, you know, any of the slopes, either the Cantabrian Sea slope, or facing the Bay of Biscay of the Northern Sea, and the Mediterranean side or slope, which is right at the southern end, are both exciting. And also they show us how altitude, it's a remarkable factor for distribution. So here we are, Cantabrian Mountains, as I said, quite old, 65 or so million years old. It's quite of a long range, around 300 kilometers long, and around 50 probably, or 60 kilometers on the widest side from north to south. Now, we're going to split them in three: the Western Cantabrian Mountains, Central Cantabrian Mountains, and the Eastern ones. We tend to move between the Eastern and the Central, mostly with our expeditions. And these involve, obviously, the counties of Cantabria, Asturias, and part of some of the province of the very large county of Castilla and Leon. Now, ways to access this area: we normally either fly from London to our hub, which is either Santander or Asturias. We normally get into Santander, and from Santander travel inland to the heart of the middle of nowhere areas of the eastern and central Cantabrian Mountains, more or less. You can see amongst beautiful and natural reserves and national parks around. The other option that we also do is accessing by boat. And I'm going to tell you way more about it, but that's coming from Plymouth into Santander, covering the length of Bay of Biscay, which is another exciting, and it's a very good adventure. It's an overnight in a comfortable boat, the Pont Avent, and it's highly recommended. It gives you that taste of not flying, but also navigating across the Bay of Biscay. Once in the mountains, as I said, very corrugated, unlike the Pyrenees, which are perfectly cone and peaky. The Cantabrian Mountains tend to be a slightly more corrugated, more sort of forming a sort of like a tepui, like a table on top, which gave us all these ancient glaciers and valleys to play with, and wildlife can play with. And this is the reason why amongst them, this is because Europa, as you can see behind, because the Cantara Mountains are completely unattached, but play a big role in the creation of valleys. And valleys are really important because our corridors, especially for large mammals, that to move along, and carnivores. And once you get, you know, to the foothills, which is right the gate to the meseta of the plains of the plateau, you know, of the Mediterranean steppes of Spain, heading south, you can see the great difference. I mean, it's really a paradise for somebody very into geology, because it's really ancient formations that tell us a lot of what happened there. Mainly limestone, but there's a lot of packs of pockets of conglomerate, and also granite and sandstone. So as you can see, these are Curabacas, which is one of the highest peak in the Cantabrian Mountains, all dark looking, you know, masses of conglomerate combined with some limestone around. Beautiful glaciers, as I said, that actually give us a fantastic landscape, accessing on 4x4s as we do when we are in land. This is one of the beautiful local breeds of cows called Tudanka. Beautiful animals, very grumpy, but worth seeing as well. And here we are, our adventurers start scanning. You know, we choose prominent areas with territories or passage areas. And we just sit and scan. But what we're scanning, you know, mammals could be really elusive. Particularly, the very first one I'd like to start with is the Iberian wolf. Iberian wolves, you know, unlike Eastern European wolves, they live in smaller packs. They're stockier, they're browner, darker, and they could move in around 300 square kilometers as a territory, as a main territory, always led by a dominant alpha female and an alpha male. And here we are, just choosing the right spot without disturbing, without affecting them. They're really clever animals, really sensitive as well, so we kept our distance. And with our gear, you know, once we spot one, it's very much easy to get to them. You've got to be a very trained eye to actually spot these animals over the mist, over the you know, the color of the background of their habitat. But we always find a very nice secluded area so we can easily stand there without causing any disruption to their course. And they're beautiful. It's just incredible animals. While we're looking for them, there's other things to look around, like this beautiful golden eagle. They always patrolling around, and it's sort of related. Sometimes they tend to follow big pack of carnivores, especially lynx, because they leftovers that in the winter these animals could benefit of the carcass left by these big carnivores. Vultures as well are always nearby, and sometimes they could they're like the whistleblowers when wolves have a big killing, and obviously, as I said, they all get benefit of all those that leftovers, you know, those leftovers. Beautiful animals like red deer are native from this area. Massive stacks, you know, especially when we're there in the late summer, early autumn. You know, all the breeding and mating season starts. There's a lot of male rooting around, even up until early winter. Especially those that couldn't make it, that still carry on bellowing and all that. But it's quite a spectacle to see these. And also wild boar, you know, which are mainly their main sort of food of wolves. And as I said, we have strategical viewpoint to see all these fantastic scenery that we are exposed to. Now, with Iberian wolves, they have taken, because a lot of people say, what's the protection of these animals going? It's quite relative. wolves are always going to be competing with humans, so therefore we have to control them. And I said we have to control them. Unfortunately, there is a certain control that goes according to the new regulation, it's once every other year that they do a control. Many counties work it out differently according to their own regulations and law. And but these animals have been benefited from, you know, the undirected protection of these guys, Cantabrian brown bears. Now, Cantabrian brown bears are strictly protected, and that have taken to their to put the species from and sort of rarity or even nearly endangered sort of pattern to actually a good, to put it into good healthy numbers across the Cantabrian Mountains. I think at the moment there's about 200 or 250 individuals, a relative number, but you know they're doing quite well around the Cantabrian Mountains. And again, we sort of tend to see them around very unexpected areas. Sometimes you see, gosh, this very sheer rock here and it's quite steep, but no, they just go there. It's amazing how their ability of climbing mountains and all these lovely glaciers. You know, you would think that you're going to see them in the easy area in the meadows, but no, they prefer these rocky beds, rocky slopes with a lot of grass and boulders that, you know, that's where food is. And especially when they're youngsters, they have no hesitation of removing entire walls to get their food. You know, they're omnivorous and they're seasonal eaters. So and at the time we're visiting this area, they're always feeding around and move around, you know, into the open where we can, if we're lucky enough, we can get to see them. Again, across this fantastic central Cantabrian Mountains habitat, beautiful green, lovely valleys with nice sheer rocky faces and crags, ideal for not only these beautiful animals while we're scanning, but to other creatures, you know, that we can spot while we looking for these brown bears. There's always this myth about them, you know, with the locals, that they tend to be spotted at all times. But yeah, there are seasons and seasons. But as I said, all these animals are driven by food, and if they can get onto an orchard to get the pears or to get to rip off the beehives, or you know, but the neighbors at the moment, I think that's one of the biggest part of their conservation efforts. You know, it's the natives, the locals are learning, or they have learned in the last 10 years, to live with them and just to let them go. Yes, they get compensations from the government, that helps, but you know, it helps a lot to the species. Again, with wolves, you know, it happens, they have benefited from the strict protection from brown bears, to actually keep themselves in good shape. Not only them, northern Spain, particularly the Cantabrian Mountains, is one of the best places for the healthiest populations of wildcats. Fantastic, beautiful animals that we often get to see them hunting or moving around meadows in the late mornings. And it's always, they add an extra bonus, a beautiful bonus to our trips. Beautiful bonus to a trip, the same as Cantabrian chamois, that they are quite often spotted around the mountains. Now, in terms of accessing this beautiful part of Spain, if not by air on our Iberian wolf watching in Spain, or you know, we have the options to go on the ferry. And we do that in our two expeditions, which is the Picos and Plains tour, and also on our Spain's Big 3 tours. So very comfortable vessel, as I said, upon the van. Very spacious from the tops. We can do all sort of wildlife watching in the sea, or sea watching, and we can just come across A lot of cetacean species, like this minke whale, for example. A lot of gannets, flying nearly, nearly right next to you across the boat. A lot of other areas like rafts of sheer waters and other birds like this beautiful great sheer water, and plenty of other things. Sperm whales is also often spotted in our crossings, which added extra excitement. I love sperm whales, so it's a personal excitement really. Dolphins, striped dolphins, common short-beaked dolphins. Sometimes we can get rhesus dolphins as well, which are quite rare. And sperm whales, fin whales. Fin whales are also one of the most wanted, cetaceans to be seen. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, blue whales can come across, as long as other beautiful rescuers, you name it. There's a very, very nice crossing, Manchester waters, and we all enjoy going around with. The boat is comfortable, the cabins are comfortable, good food, good accommodation, and as I said, there's a lot of camaraderie in the boat to get to see all these animals, and when there's somebody there, because the more eyes you have around, the better. So there's often people running around from side to side of the boat when people spotted some activity on either side. So it's a good thing. Once inland, there's, apart from the wildlife we've been seeing, there's a lot of other interesting matters that we take a look at. This area of the Cantabrian Mountains, it's quite great to see all this ancient Romanesque art, in their churches, and it's quite well known. And also going down to the plains of the northern plains of Villafafil as well, it's great to see a lot of different contrast of the country with the mountains, and we can find spectacular birds like these mongoose, harrier, our great busters, which are always the icing of the cake in the trips down there, which there's always nice to see one. Very hard to find them, especially in a trip in the summer. We have to go there really early so we can spot it over the hills and not far from our vehicles. Not to mention as well the beautiful cities or towns, which in the old days were fortress, the old walled towns in northern Spain, which are really, really lovely to see. And we always have the time to have a little wander around during our breaks, and also to enjoy the accommodation, the local gastronomy. Gosh, it's just a lot of things apart from the wildlife to enjoy on these trips. And it's a kind of I could spend, I bet, like Nick or Simons, the whole night talking about way more about this beautiful part of Spain. But we hope to see you there. As I said, we have 3 different tours that goes to this fantastic area of Spain, or because on plains also, or Spain's Big 3, and any of the wolf watching tours that takes place in this fantastic part of the lovely Spain. A little bit too cold maybe for Simon and Nikki, and they prefer to stay in the south with the sunshine and not much rain. But yeah, I bet they will love it as well. So thank you very much taking this opportunity to show you, to wish you all of you a fantastic holiday time. Thank you.